My 24 female boyfriend, 24 male wants to move in together, but after we went on a trip, I don't want to. How do I tell him? We have been together for 1 year, but have only spent 1 or 2 nights together continuously because we have busy schedules. My boyfriend wants me to move in with him ASAP, and I told him I would in a few months, but we went on a trip, and I saw a different side to him that I hate. My boyfriend has this hurtful habit of making offensive jokes, specifically about appearance. I feel bad saying this, but my boyfriend is in no position to make comments about appearances. He's pretty overweight, but I don't care and have never mentioned it. He started making jokes about my arms being massive and like Popeye when I was getting ready for dinner. I got upset and started to cry. I felt so insecure. I'm very fit and muscular, and I'm always worried I look masculine, so it's a hurtful spot for me. When I started to cry, he walked out of the hotel and slammed the door behind him and said, "When you're ready, I'll be downstairs." We had a conversation where he told me he's pissed off, that I'm upset, that I can't take a joke, and he's sick of having to watch everything he says around me. In the end, he promised me he wouldn't comment negatively on my appearance anymore. 2 hours later, we were looking at photos, and he says, "Wow, your makeup was actually fucked up today." I was really bothered by his behavior on the flight back home. It was only a 5-hour flight, but he was ordering so much food, leaving mess everywhere. He left his AirPods in his suitcase in the overhead locker and expected me to get out and make a hassle and get them out for him. He wasn't even 100% sure they were in there. When I said I don't really feel like waking up the guy next to me to scramble looking for his AirPods, he rolled his eyes and turned his back to me. Here's the real kicker. The flight attendant was giving clear instructions to please buckle seatbelts and turn phones on flight mode, but my boyfriend was blatantly ignoring her and trying to upload selfies on Instagram. I asked him if he could please listen to her, and he completely flipped and said, "Why do you have to piss me off all the time? You're not my mother. I'll do whatever I please. Don't tell me what to do." I was so embarrassed that he said that in public, so I snapped back and said, "Well, stop acting like a child then." My boyfriend replies, "No, you are the child. You don't know anything." I just closed my eyes and tried to nap. I was holding back tears at this point. After 10 minutes, he tried to hold my hand and told me, "You know I love you. I'll always love you. My heart belongs to you." Throughout the trip, I just felt like everything was about what he wanted. On one of the days, I told him it's best if we do our own thing, to which he agreed. We were only apart for 8 hours, but he called me a few times asking what I was doing. When we met up again, he told me he missed me and was worried about me. He was thinking about me the whole time. For me, it was the complete opposite. Without him, I felt peace. Despite all of this, my boyfriend is always kissing me and cuddling me, telling me he loves me. When I went home after we got back from the trip, he said he's so sad to go home without me and he wishes we lived together. But his behavior on this trip turned me off completely. How do I tell him I don't want to move in? He's going to be hurt. I know it. Now for some comments. You should be breaking up with him, not worried about how to tell him you don't want to live with him. Thank goodness she doesn't live with him. It will make breaking up with him so much easier. That's why he wants her to move in. He can't even mask his BS long enough to get his hooks in. He's that bad. This guy is just so offensive and verbally abusive, you should just break up with him as soon as possible. Also, don't do it in person for your own safety. If you have things at his place, get them out. Next story. My husband. 30 male dropped our baby, and I, 25 female, slapped him. Can our marriage be repaired? We have been married for several years. We welcomed our first baby earlier this year. Other than typical newborn stress, we have been pretty happy. Until this past weekend. I received a call from my husband telling me to come home, and then hung up. He said nothing to me. I frantically drove home from work. Upon entering our home, he started yelling at me for being a horrible mother and how dare I not be home and not answer his calls. I was at work when he needed me. He then told me that our daughter had fallen. He put her on the kitchen counter in her car seat without being strapped in and walked away for 10 minutes. even went upstairs, watched TV, played on his phone. In that time, she had wiggled out of her car seat and fell onto the kitchen floor. I was aghast when I heard this. The rage I felt was indescribable. In my fury, I slapped him. As soon as I did it, I ran off to our daughter's nursery and drove her immediately to the ED to be evaluated. Thankfully, she was okay. Now we are sitting in the aftermath. I am upset and feel my trust has been betrayed. He had been drinking around her all day, and that infuriates me. He, on the other hand, is enraged about the fact I slapped him. I don't think physical violence is ever okay, and I apologized for it. He's hell-bent that the slap will be the reason we now get divorced. He says it was all just a mistake and that it won't happen again. And he may be right. I really don't know if there is any recovery from this. It feels like our marriage is over. Do you think there is any way this can be worked out? We do plan to see a therapist. Now, for some comments, you should see a therapist so they can knock some sense into you. Leave him. Divorce him. He's a useless bag of crap. Get rid of him. How dare he call you a horrible mother when he was supposed to be the one that was supposed to be taking care of her while you were at work? He's lucky you only slapped him. That man is dumber than a box of rocks. He called you a horrible parent when he's the one who literally placed a child in a car seat, unbuckled on the counter, and basically forgot she was there. His negligence could have caused the death of your child. Thank goodness it didn't. But how is this your fault? While drunk, no less. Awful. Too drunk. And not willing to face the music that he knew he'd face taking in his injured child while visibly drunk, with an injury that happened due to his negligence. That gets CPS and police attention. No, better to bully his wife and hopefully she'll take the kid in and just say, "It was an accident," when they ask. Quote unquote, he had been drinking around her all day. It's horribly negligent to do that one time. One time is enough to leave, and call CPS would be justified. But I don't know, the way OP wrote her post, it seems like this isn't the first time. She doesn't seem angry or shocked enough that he was drinking heavily around the baby. That's bad even when there are sober adults around, but he was also the sole caretaker. Yes, she's infuriated, but the drinking makes up less than 5% of her story. It doesn't seem to concern her enough. At first, OP was more concerned with the baby's immediate health, totally understandable, and the fact that he dropped her. Again, makes sense. But now she's mainly focused on the slap and the aftermath. She only mentions drinking once. Where's the rant about him being an alcoholic, having a problem, going to rehab? She says they're going to therapy, but why isn't she talking about his personal addiction? The fact that she casually mentioned it, like a little detail, tells me that husband frequently drinks around the baby and OP just got used to it. Maybe it doesn't bother her unless an accident happens. Maybe she grew up with parents who drank all day around her, and she doesn't see how that's a giant red flag. His ability to be a good, safe, trustworthy parent is zero. You don't suddenly start drinking all day out of the blue. He's an alcoholic, and you don't make one mistake like this. This is just the one time that his negligence backfired. I guess he got lucky all the other times. It took many, many steps for this awful thing to occur. Many thought patterns and opinions and habits. He decided to drink while being alone with his baby. Negligent and uncaring. He decided to put her in a physically precarious position. Stupid and negligent. He did that while knowing he's drunk. Negligent. He decided to walk away. Negligent. It wasn't for a good reason, like needing to use the bathroom, although you still shouldn't leave a baby in a dangerous spot while doing that. It was for a dumb, selfish reason, which makes it doubly negligent. He chose to play video games for 10 minutes, and so on. Every choice represents another level of selfishness and poor parenting. Selfishness that's so extreme that it endangers his daughter's life. Last story. My 26 male wife, 25. Female told me that she no longer wants kids because I was diagnosed with autism. How do I move forward? Throw away. Me and my wife Cora have been together for over 5 years and married for 3. Both Cora and I always dreamed of having a large family. We both love each other dearly, and I truly thought nothing could come between us. Now I feel like my whole world is falling apart. I've always struggled a bit with my mental health. I always struggled with socializing and keeping up in school when I was a kid. I was bullied a lot for being weird and not as smart as the other kids or my siblings. I never got therapy because my folks believed that therapy was just for women and men who were too weak to hack it out on their own. I finally decided to make the jump and go see a therapist. Recently, I was officially diagnosed with autism. I had a huge mix of emotions. I was shocked, relieved, and insecure. I finally had some answers for why I felt so different growing up, but I also felt scared because I didn't want people to look at or treat me differently. Shortly after I told Cora about my diagnosis, things between us started to feel off. She was very supportive and gave me comfort, but I could tell something was wrong. She wasn't nearly as talkative. I would regularly catch her deep in thought, and she seemed to grow more distant as the days went on. The biggest change I noticed was that Cora almost completely stopped talking about babies. She went from constantly sending me baby-related content from TikTok to not even wanting to talk about the subject at all. After 2 weeks of this, I finally decided to confront her. She kept saying that she didn't want to talk about it and she was fine. I told her she's not fine, I'm starting to fear the worst, and we're going to talk about this now. After prying at her for several minutes, she finally confessed that she doesn't think we should have children anymore. My heart sank. She started talking a mile a minute and kept reassuring that we can still adopt. She said that she grew up with a sibling who had special needs, and it made her childhood miserable. She said that she can't bring herself to have a child with me, now knowing the chances of producing a child with special needs are much higher. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was filled with pain and rage. What she said next completely pushed me over the edge. She told me, "I'm so sorry, OP. It's not your fault. I love you so much. Believe me, if I had known you were autistic, I never would have brought up having kids." I lost it. I screamed at her and said, "If I had known you were such a heartless piece of trash, I never would have married you." She just looked at me with a blank stare, and I stormed out before she could respond. I feel so broken. In that moment, it felt like all the years of abuse and ridicule were replaying back in my mind. We haven't spoken to each other for a couple days. I feel awful for yelling, but I feel so hurt. I just don't know what to do. Now for some comments. Honestly, this is something to talk to your therapist about. Reddit is not going to give you good guidance here. Maybe some genetics counseling for the two of you would be a good idea too. They can explain in depth the exact risks associated with your diagnosis, having children. In case it isn't obvious to you, I will point out that this appears to be a trauma response from your wife. If she has not been through therapy herself, it would be good for her to do so. I'm not so sure it's just a trauma response from the wife. Special needs kids are tough. Autism is genetically linked, and while most cases that we see and hear about are mild, there are also many cases where the child is high needs. Autism isn't something that can be screened for. It's also not predictable how drastic it will be. It seems pretty logical. The wife still thinks adoption is a good choice, so it's not like she gave up on having kids. Exactly. I have autism, my partner has severe ADHD, and we have a daughter with autism that at this point will probably always live with us. Special needs children and adults are hard if you're not ready or equipped to deal with them. I'm lucky that I have my lived experience and that I work in the mental health field, so I have the tools to help her thrive. We are also in a really good school district. Not everyone has that or can get that. Edit. If you're not going to read the thread, I'm not wasting my time here. I've already said I don't believe she's ready or equipped for any children in any way she can have one. I'm not going to argue my lived experiences as a person with autism and as a mother to an autistic child. We're lucky to be in an area where we can access programs and resources. Not everywhere has it. Neurodivergence isn't cared enough about or understood enough. The access is awful in even the better areas. I won't be arguing this more. If she's not equipped, she shouldn't have a child. Life sucks. This world was created for neurotypicals, and until more people learn, we have to seek accommodations, etc. Even professionals aren't always equipped. 23 female stopped relying on my husband, 25 male, and I think it's making things worse. Advice? I'm sure you all have heard similar stories. My husband, despite multiple discussions over the past 2 years, never takes initiative in chores or anything in our lives. I'm constantly the one reminding him and asking him to do things, and when I don't, it doesn't get done. He told me he started hating me because of it about 6 months ago, so we both had an agreement that I will stop telling him what to do as long as he starts following up with his promises. I followed up on my end of the promise, and he didn't within a few days. We agreed that since I wake up first to work out then make breakfast, he wakes up with our kid and takes her to daycare before work. After work, I pick up our kid and make dinner and manage the bedtime routine, and he cleans the kitchen while I do that. Every single day I walk out after bedtime to the kitchen not being touched. It's so disappointing and hurtful. Usually I get upset at him and tell him that I really want the kitchen cleaned every day, and he just brushes me off saying he will do it in the morning. 25% of the time he does. But since we had the agreement, I stopped. I just pretended to ignore the mess and would get ready for bed because by then I would have to get up in 7 hours. I let him be responsible for the mess because that's what we agreed on. 2 months later, and our kitchen was always a mess. Constantly, we would have molded food on the stove next to the sink, crumbs everywhere on the floor. So I gave up and started cleaning whenever I had time. I learned to cook and clean at the same time. Stressful with a child, but I learned. Most of the time, there were a week's worth of dishes, and we have no dishwasher, so it took me a long time to catch up on washing the dishes. After bedtime, usually I'd be the only one cleaning. He would be laying in bed even though I wake up 2 hours before he does. He would literally yell at me about how I let the dishes get so stinky whenever he did wash the dishes, even though he agreed that he's responsible for cleaning after dinner. So I stopped relying on him and just started taking care of everything on my own. It's been 2 months of that mindset, and I find it harder to respect him now. He seems like a child to me, always complaining about everything and never puts effort, always too tired and grumpy. Today I was very excited because my husband brought up the idea of a movie night date. He never brings up date ideas or plans them, so it made me so hopeful. He said he would rent a movie, and after bedtime, we would watch it. I made a fancier dinner and put our kid down. Kid took a little longer to go down, but I was fine with it because I figured he would clean today so we can have a movie night. I was wrong. He didn't even bother to close the lids on the pans on the stove. He just turned off the lights in the kitchen. It felt like my heart broke, and I cleaned the kitchen myself again. He walked out, didn't say a word, and watched YouTube videos at the counter. Once I was done cleaning, we went to the bedroom and he just laid down and went to sleep. It hurt so much. I was so hopeful this time. He gets mad at me that I don't treat him like a man, but he never shows me he's reliable. I'm always hurt by his actions. Anyway, any advice on what I should do? Now for some comments. He got what he wanted. He didn't want chores. You're doing them now for him. OP is working, raising the kids and taking care of the home while he has no problem adding to her workload and showing no appreciation. This is the off-ramp to divorce town. It is way easier to be a divorced single mom than a married one. One big baby less to take care of makes so much difference. Yep, and this is the biggest reason for walk-away wife syndrome, which is a fancy way of saying, or misogynistic, he didn't freaking listen. She'll walk away, take the kid, have full custody, and he'll be all surprised panda-like. But why? As if he didn't dig the damn hole and put himself in it before she covered him with dirt. Update. First of all, I did not expect the post to blow up. Thank you to everyone who gave their advice. I tried to read every reply. I have been asked a lot for an update, so I'll just give what's happening now. I didn't leave him. Yet, at least. After that post, I had a surge of confidence. and really was planning on leaving him. Suddenly, though, he woke up one morning and it was like he was a different man. I'm not exaggerating. He was drastically different. He made breakfast for me while I was working out. He helped with making lunch and kept kissing me and sent me off to work with an "I love you." I thought for sure it would stop by the time he got home later, but it didn't. He went from a man who was angry every morning and angry when he came home from work to a sweet and loving man overnight. It was weird at first, but after a full week of being shown affection to, all my plans for leaving crumbled, and I was lost. He started working overtime, and I started working part-time, so the issues of house chore divide ceased. Plus, he cleaned the kitchen now while I put the child down, which was the main issue. It's been 3 weeks, and I feel like I'm living in a dream, and I have no idea what to do. I still haven't told him that I plan to leave him. I don't know if I will or not. I can't help but feel suspicious, like there's some hidden motive to this. He even planned a date night and showed me affection after. He never does that. I keep expecting for his usual aggression to pop out of nowhere. Sometimes he still looks at me with those scary eyes, but he doesn't talk or do anything aggressive anymore. I feel unsettled by all this in a way. My mental health has been spiraling too. I just feel so lost. Today he was upset because I slept in, and it's making me feel so anxious for some reason. He wasn't aggressive or yelling, but I'm scared to piss him off and he will go back to how he was. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you to everyone who took the time to help me, and I'm sorry if this update wasn't what you hoped for. Now for some comments. You never had a conversation about things in recent times when you made your original post. Maybe he snooped through your PC or phone and came across it and had a wake-up call. Right? The abrupt 180 in behavior, for no apparent reason, is creepy as hell, especially considering the bit about his scary eyes. Stay vigilant, OPETA. Apparently, this worthless mother effer has said things in the past like he wanted to get a punching bag because he was tempted to punch OP. What the F? Or he cheated and is feeling bad. I've heard of this happening before, and the man cheated. This behavior is how I figured out my ex was cheating for 2 years, starting only months after we got together. I realized he kept going through a guilt-shame cycle shortly in and confronted him, but of course he told me I was crazy. It would stop for a while and then start again, and finally I did something I had never done before in my life and snooped through his laptop. Turns out when he was at his worst behavior-wise was during his dry spells. I kind of suspected that when I started snooping, though. The way he talked to women online disgusted me more than his cheating, so much more. I've been in the online dating world off and on since OkCupid wouldn't allow divorced people to join, and the first question asked in the chat room was age, sex, location. My ex's behavior was an 8 out of 10 on the gross behavior scale. Though I'm happy to report that 9 times out of 10 that behavior doesn't work. I'm guessing the other 10% are people who have been lonely a little bit too long, who see the dick pic and think, hey, even if he's terrible, I can make it work for me. And then stick around for a little while because he's actually amazing in bed. But cheaters aren't worth the hassle. I met him through a mutual friend that I have known for 23 years. That friend's assessment of him now is that he's a great guy, but a terrible man. I kind of wish he had found me through online dating first, and then I would have avoided him. Next story. My 39 male wife. 34 female asked me to leave an event without her, and I feel pretty bummed. How do I address it? Edit. First, I just want to thank everyone for the time and effort that has clearly gone into some very thoughtful and thought-provoking posts. I really do appreciate it, and sorry if I haven't thanked you personally. There are a lot of you. Couple of things to clarify. I left in part because the event was winding down. I could have made a point of staying, but there were very few people left. The chores or sex thing. First, when I mention chores, I mean I'm doing everything. Cooking, including getting up early on weekends to bake, cleaning, laundry, ironing, dishes, grocery shopping, everything. I've wanted to make sure she doesn't have to lift a finger, just focus on getting through the day and relaxing in the evening. In the past, when I've mentioned this, Her reply has typically been on the lines of, "I didn't ask you to do any of that." And to be clear, I neither expect nor want pity, heart, gratitude, sex. I just want to be wanted. And I know that things like a messy home are barriers for a lot of women's libidos. Reflecting on it, there are clearly a few things going on here, and this incident feels a bit like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's not to sound dramatic, but it's part of the reason I didn't want to talk last night. I was worried it'd all come flooding out. And that's not fair to her. It's important that she took the time to celebrate and revel in her brilliant performance. It's clear that a lot of this is about me, not her. I need to work on myself before I try and tackle this with her. Counseling might help one day, but I'm going to read No More Mr. Nice Guy and some other book recommendations first. She came home around 1 a.m. I slept in a spare room, so I didn't wake her this morning when I had to get up. But I heard her come in. She opened the card, but hasn't messaged me or left me a note to say anything. I am convinced she's not cheating. That's not a concern of mine at all. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it. OP, redirected here from another sub, would really welcome thoughts on this. My wife has had it rough with work over the past few weeks. I've done my absolute level best to support her, cooked, cleaned, done the laundry, you name it. I even helped her write her speech for this event she was presenting at. Fast forward to today. The event goes really well, and her speech is a hit. Significantly more than her, let's be clear. Naturally, I congratulated her in the networking segment after the speeches and told her how proud I was of her. Then I let her go about her business, while I went about mine. It's her glory to revel in, and I've got my own professional objectives. The event winds down, so I walk over to her, give her a big hug. She tells me, and this is pretty much verbatim, "You can go now. I'm hanging with the girls." So I gave her a hug, said of course, got my coat, and left. I've since had loads of missed calls and texts from her. Texts just say, "Hello, mister," or "Hello." I sent back, "You don't need a ball and chain tonight. Go have fun. You deserve it." But I didn't want to talk to her. I'm really gutted. I get that she wants to spend time with her colleagues. They've been in the wars together. But I'm going away for a week tomorrow. We've barely spent any time together for the past few weeks. We haven't had sex this month, even on my birthday, and I'm just a bit, I don't know. I don't feel valued, loved, respected, or appreciated. I feel like I deserve a bit better than to be dismissed like that. I don't think she was joking. Her friends sort of cheered when she told me, so I guess they agreed they'd go out, and that was her moment to tell me. I also had my own professional objectives at the event. I wasn't primarily there to support her, that was a side benefit. And we had no plans for this evening. I just hoped she might want to spend some time with me before I go away. How do I address my feelings with my wife? She's often annoyed with me for not being more resilient or being too emotional, and I don't want to fight about this. But I often struggle to express my emotions without showing them. Please help. Now for some comments. If you are unable to have an open and honest conversation with her about how you are feeling, you do have a problem, regardless of how much you adore her. If you perceived her comments as a dismissal, then you need to call her out on it and talk it out. You should never dismiss your spouse unless it is a joke, and your spouse is cool with said joke. Clearly, not the case here. It sounds to me like you are feeling neglected overall, and to not address that is doing a disservice to yourself and to your marriage. Best of luck, OP! That was not at all polite of her. I'd be angry if that happened to me. Had she nicely asked if you would mind if she stayed behind to have time with the girls, that would be a different thing, although still not very mannerly or considerate. It sounds like she did this in front of the others. That's very rude and a bit manipulative. I used to ask my BF, "Do you know what makes us the superior species?" He'd guess, "Opposable digits." Nope. It's the advanced ability to communicate. We have the language and the ability, both physical and intellectual, to use our words to communicate with precision and thus solve our issues. He got the hint. But he still sucked as a communicator, so we eventually broke up. I'm sorry. Your feelings are absolutely valid. It could also be that what happened at the event felt more hurtful to you than normal, because you've already been feeling neglected and taken for granted long before the event began. The situation seems to be that you are somewhat out of sync with each other and each other's needs, and I wonder, based on your suffering in silence martyr coping mechanism, how long this has been going on. Has your relationship been mostly a one-way street with you, predominantly the giver and her the taker, or has it always been a two-way street until now? I worry that you can't easily communicate your wants and needs with her because she isn't supportive when you do. But suffering in silence will not help fix the issues. So if you want to improve your relationship and get what you need, you have to effectively communicate, and you need a partner who cares and can reciprocate. Have you thought about starting by finding a therapist who can help you communicate more effectively? Am I the a-hole? For getting upset after my husband asked for a paternity test. My husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, recently welcomed our baby boy, just a few months ago. Adjusting to life with a newborn has been challenging, but until recently, I had no reason to think he was unhappy or suspected anything. 2 days ago, out of the blue, he asked for a paternity test. He insisted it wasn't because he suspected me of cheating, and that he only wanted peace of mind, mentioning how he'd hate to unknowingly raise a child who might not be his. I was heartbroken. To me, asking for a paternity test feels like an accusation of infidelity, even though he kept insisting that wasn't the case. But during the conversation, he even brought up little incidents that supposedly fueled his doubts, which only added to my hurt and confusion. Overwhelmed and in tears, I ended up shouting at him and leaving to calm down. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to talk to him, and last night, he confronted me about the silent treatment, and we ended up in another heated argument. Since then, we haven't spoken. Honestly, I'm at a complete loss. I love him deeply, and I don't want our marriage to unravel, especially now, with a baby involved. This is the first time we've had a conflict like this, and I'm struggling to make sense of it all. So, am I the a-hole for reacting the way I did? Is there something I'm missing? Now for some comments. My son's father asked me if our son was his. Found out later he was cheating on me pretty much the whole 10 years we were together. For every finger you point at someone else, there are 3 pointing back at you. I never gave my ex-husband a reason to think I was cheating, but every time he was up to something, I'd suddenly get accused. Same with my ex-wife, she accused me every time she was cheating. And then, surprised Pikachu face, was shocked when I discovered her affair. She cheated at least 3 times that I know about. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my wife's decision to punish our son and letting him go to a party that will be tonight? This is a throwaway, but this involves some absolute high school drama nonsense that someone my age should have to deal with. But maybe I am tripping and missing something. So here I am. I, 45. Male, share a daughter, 17, and son, 15, with my wife, 41. My wife's best friend, who is 40 female, has 2 daughters, 18 and 15. My wife's best friend moved to our town about 6 years ago. My wife and her best friend have been not so subtly pulling for the 2 15-year-olds to end up together. I find this weird and low-key creepy. About 2 years ago, my wife's best friend's youngest daughter appeared to have developed a crush on our son. My son talked to me about it, and he had 0 interest. So, we discussed how to tactfully but firmly let her down. She has approached him again a number of times over the last couple of years, and he has reaffirmed his lack of interest. This past summer, my wife's best friend's oldest daughter turned 18. Her parents went all out for her birthday. It was a whole weekend of festivities and events. One of the events was a couple's dinner for the oldest daughter and all her friends in couples. The younger daughter of wife's best friend wanted to go to the dinner but did not have anyone to go with. She asked my son, and he agreed to go, but only as friends and just this one time. So they went together. After the dinner, the couples all watched 10 Things I Hate About You together. It was my son's first time seeing it, and he commented that he thought the Heath Ledger singing scene was cool. This is important later. My business partner, 44 male every year, for the last 5 years, throws a huge Halloween party. All our employees are invited along with close friends and family. The party requires a costume, and at this party there are prizes for best individual costume, group costume, and couples costume. My wife's best friend and her family are obviously invited every year. This year, the Halloween party is tonight, October 26th. So, let me get to the reason I am here. About a month ago, my son was at school, and coming towards him was my wife's best friend's younger daughter with a whole song and dance routine. She ends it by asking him to be her date for the Halloween party. My son was so frustrated and reiterated for everyone to hear that he is not interested in her like that at all. Of course, it being high school, some kids laughed and she ran off crying. She has been bullied pretty badly because of it. My wife's best friend is livid and thinks our son owes her daughter an apology. My wife agrees and thinks, at a minimum, he needs to defend her against the bullying. My son has said that for 2 years, he has told her he is not interested and reiterated it over and over. At this point, he thinks it's kind of harassing to him, and it is not his role to defend her harassment of him. I agree with my son. My wife and I have had a number of disagreements about it since it happened. Well, things have intensified in the last couple of weeks or so because another girl, who wife's best friend's daughter apparently does not like, asked our son to be her date for the party, and he agreed. They are doing a pretty dope couple's costume. This has really pissed off my wife because she thinks he should, at least, not go to the party with another girl out of respect. I think that is ridiculous. I plan on driving them to the party with me. My wife now does not want to go to the party and is saying I am an AH and raising our son to be one. So, am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Tell your wife consent goes both ways. What if it had been a boy harassing her best friend's daughter for 2 years? Would she still push for the daughter to give that boy a chance? Or to defend that boy or force her not to go to a party with another boy out of respect? She and the best friend are perpetuating some pretty damaging behaviors in the best friend's daughter. It's also detrimental to the daughter of best friend. She needs to accept that rejection happens, and it's okay. He doesn't like her. And had she recognized that earlier, she would have saved herself the embarrassment that she endured at school. Her mother and OP's wife set her up for failure. She'll learn a valuable lesson in resilience, but only if her mom stops pushing. I completely agree with you, OP. Your son shouldn't have to apologize for being honest about his feelings. He's not responsible for anyone else's emotions, right? I'd be making that clear to the son as well. He needs to know his consent matters. Literally only thing I could maybe see asking him to apologize for would be having gone to the dinner in the first place, LMAO. Last story. After 2 years of promises, they gave my promotion to the worst person on the team, so I left and let them sink. Before reading, this is not the Am I the A-hole story. I basically don't know how to use this platform. I'm sorry in advance. Back to the story. I've been at my company as a graphic designer in the marketing department for around 3 or 4 years. When I started, it was just 3 of us in the team, including a team lead I respected deeply. The team was small, but I loved the creative challenges and working closely with my coworkers. As our team grew, I quickly stood out as one of the most dedicated and fastest designers. I trained every new hire, led projects, delivered presentations, and even organized workshops for the team. Over time, I took on the kind of responsibilities you'd expect of a senior designer and poured everything into each project. Then, things started to change. My team lead left, which meant even more responsibilities landed on my plate as we had no replacement for over a year. It felt like a perfect opportunity to prove myself and show that I was ready for the senior designer role. I was told during my annual review that I was on track, and if I kept up the hard work, I'd be promoted after another year. But that's when I saw something that made my stomach drop. A newer coworker, a notoriously lazy, toxic type, had just been promoted to senior designer. I was stunned. She'd joined the team much later than me, did the absolute bare minimum, and constantly passed her unfinished projects to me because I was fast. I couldn't believe it. She didn't have a clue about design strategy, stakeholder management, or even team collaboration. Most of the time, she'd sweet-talk the higher-ups, taking credit for things she didn't do and then passing any real work to the rest of us. What really killed me was seeing her parading around, acting like a leader, telling everyone else how to work, and setting team guidelines. She barely followed herself. She even had a reputation among stakeholders as impossible to work with. They frequently requested that I handle their projects instead of her. After months of this, we finally got a new team lead, and I saw a chance to fight for the promotion I'd been promised. I put together a presentation with all my project successes, positive feedback from coworkers, and a portfolio of senior-level work I'd been handling. The team lead was impressed and acknowledged that I was one of the most talented designers on the team. I thought finally, someone saw my hard work. But not long after, the same coworker messed up a big project, affecting not only my workflow but also my reputation because she'd looped me into it to cover for her. I corrected her work, but instead of appreciation, she stormed into the office and started yelling, accusing me of embarrassing her in front of the stakeholder. I calmly explained that I was simply following project guidelines, which she had ignored. When our team lead got involved, he agreed that I was in the right, but he still seemed scared to confront her fully and ended up coddling her to keep her quiet. By the time my next annual review rolled around, I'd had enough but held on to a shred of hope that I'd finally be recognized. Instead, my team lead gave me a 3-star rating out of 5 and told me I should be more present. He had the nerve to compare me to the lazy coworker, saying I needed to emulate her social presence. I was floored. I'd been the one keeping our team running, training new hires, checking on everyone's work, even fixing her mistakes, and this was how he rewarded me? I refused to sign the review papers, telling him I wouldn't be proving anything else. I told him that if he thought she was senior material, then he could let her do the work. I'd be stepping back and doing only what was required. No more senior-level tasks, no more training, no more rescuing her half-finished projects. He started panicking, offering me the promotion in 6 months instead of a year, but I was done. 2 weeks later, I accepted a higher-paying job offer and handed in my notice. My manager was shocked, begging me to stay and asking what he could do. I told him there was nothing he could say that would make up for the years of disrespect. As soon as I decided to leave, I knew exactly how I'd handle my departure. Since all those senior tasks were no longer my problem, I wasn't going to spend my final 2 weeks writing down guidelines or passing on any of the knowledge I'd built up over the years. After all, if I wasn't senior enough to earn the title, why should I act like one? Almost 60% of the work processes, design systems, and templates that kept our team afloat were things I had built from scratch, and I knew it would take them months to untangle the gaps I was about to leave behind. The team leader must have realized this pretty quickly, because every day he started showing up at my desk with another desperate plea for help. Just a few guidelines, he'd say, or just walk us through the workflow one last time. Each time, I reminded him that he'd refused my promotion, and as I saw it, that meant my time and expertise were no longer his to ask for. The day I handed in my badge and walked out of that building was the first time I felt genuinely free in years. Now I'm in a new job where my contributions are recognized and rewarded. Looking back, I can only hope this experience was a lesson for my former team lead and his senior designer. Maybe they'll learn what happens when you ignore someone's hard work and loyalty for the wrong reasons. But honestly, that's no longer my problem. Update. First of all, thank you all for reading my post and sharing your own experiences. It really helps to move on from that place, even if I can't forget what I went through. It's shocking to see how many people have dealt with the same thing. I hope this post will remind you to value yourself and maybe push you out of your comfort zone if you're not getting the respect you deserve. Some of you thought my story sounded too good to be true or felt I was overplaying my talent. Normally, I'd be modest, but when you put in years of work, gain experience, and finally learn your worth, you stop holding back. Everyone has a breaking point, and this was mine, a major wake-up call that I'd had enough. Before I jump into what happened at the company after I left, here's a bit more context. My team lead was completely new to managing, and he just didn't know how to handle the conflict. As for my lazy coworker, I get why some of you might think she slept her way to the promotion, but that wasn't it. She was way too chatty, loved sharing her secrets, and with the office being a gossip hotspot, we'd all have known if something like that was going on. She simply knew how to use her charm and manipulate people, which got her ahead. So, what's the real tea? What happened after I left? I'm still close with my former project coordinator, aka my work bestie, and if anyone had the inside scoop, it was her. They did try to get my lazy ex-coworker to step up and be a better teammate, but, surprise, nothing changed. She's still the same, and they seem stuck with her behavior. As for replacing me, they had to spread my workload across 3 to 4 junior designers. To manage this, they merged 2 teams, but that caused some frustration. Now the juniors were on the same level as the mediators, and people were not happy about that. They also lost a lot of files and work that I'd done, so they had to redo it all from scratch. In the end, nothing major happened to the company, but they're still struggling to deal with my lazy ex-coworker who's managed to shove her responsibilities onto the juniors. So, a win-win for her, I guess. Lesson learned. Everyone is replaceable, but it's essential to know your worth. I absolutely love my new workplace. I'm working with my amazing old team lead who left before this mess. My hard work is recognized and appreciated. And the best part? We don't have junior or senior titles here. We're all equal as graphic designers, and it's refreshing. Now for some comments, I mean totally not the a-hole. But, hey, at least she has good social presence. That's clearly more important than production and success. I agree. It's frustrating how often social presence gets prioritized over actual hard work and results. It sounds like you put in so much effort and talent, only to have it overlooked for someone who just knows how to play the game. You did the right thing by moving on to a place that values your contributions, OP, not the a-hole. It's amazing how a toxic environment can drain your creativity. Glad OP stood firm in decision to not give any more intellectual input to their ungrateful ass. Honestly, it sounds like you handled that whole situation like a boss. You gave everything to that job, proved your worth time and time again, and still got sidelined for someone with zero dedication. After years of promises that never materialized, the reality of being overlooked for someone clearly riding on your coattails, and then some, was the final straw. When you decided to pull back and only do what you were required to, you showed them exactly what happens when loyalty and hard work aren't appreciated. And when you left without passing along the work processes and templates you'd created, they were left to handle the mess they made, a fitting reminder of what they lost. Now, at your new job, you're finally being valued as you deserve. Let them sort through the chaos on their own. Your dedication's gone to a place that actually respects it. Husband 30 male admits I 28 female am ugly. I am an unattractive woman, objectively. I've always been this way, and while I have accustomed myself to it, it nonetheless remains a daily fact that being an ugly woman sucks. I met my husband 4 years ago, and he is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. He has always and frequently told me I'm beautiful, and somehow sounded honest, without sounding like my mother, like someone without another option to answer. Last night, Saturday, he had a group of friends over to our home. They meet several times a month to hang out, catch up, and play games. He has known most of these guys since high school. I was upstairs in the kitchen preparing drinks and snacks when and was able to hear them in the basement and began to eavesdrop, which I know was rude, but it wasn't really intentional. I realized they were talking about me. A couple of guys were teasing my husband about me, specifically about my looks. I could tell it was supposed to be funny. It was not. There was a point where one of them referred to me as a troll, and my husband blew up, started shouting. Listen, shut the freak up. I know that my name is ugly, but shut up. She makes me happy. Does your bimbo of the week do that, Jim? Dave, how long has it been since we've hung out and you haven't bitched about your wife? Not real names. He went on for a while, defending me. But all I could hear was, I know she's ugly, I know she's ugly, I know she's ugly, again and again in my head. It just broke me, I don't know why. I've always known I'm unattractive, but he isn't supposed to. He tells me I'm beautiful, so sincerely and consistently, I'd started to actually believe he thought that. I started to cry and ran into a shower so no one could hear me. When I came out an hour later, everyone had gone home, far earlier than normal. I went to bed and then haven't spoken to him all day today. But I think I've been able to avoid letting him know I'm upset, or avoiding him. I know rationally that what he said was true and sweet, and that I sound be happy he loves me, and not my body, but it doesn't seem to matter. I just want to be pretty. God, I feel so shallow. I've been crying all day. What do I say to him? Part of me wants to call him a liar, to scream and yell and cry, while the other part just wants to run away and never have to talk to him again, and acknowledge that even the greatest man I will ever meet can't find me attractive. TLDR overheard my husband admit to friends that I am ugly. Even although I knew this to be true already and the admitting happened in the midst of him explaining how much he loves me, it makes me feel terrible, worthless, and like I lost something I'd waited my whole life for. I'd given up hope I'd ever have a partner who even liked me before I met him. I lost a lottery spectacularly at birth, and my life feels like a big joke, a cycle of humiliation and punishment I did nothing to deserve. I don't even know how to talk to him. Now for some comments. Wow, this exploded overnight. I went to bed right after posting and never expected so much of a response. I can't tell you what a nice surprise this is to wake up to, all the wonderful things you guys have said. I'm going to talk to my husband today after he gets home. There is no way I can reply to all of these comments, but I promise I've read them each and every one. Glad to hear you feel a bit better. I'd be really interested in an update. I know how it feels to be loved despite my looks. So here's an internet hug. I just wanted to add something that helped me deal with my appearance a bit better. I realized that many of the traits that guys found attractive about me are traits I developed because I'm not pretty. I had to learn how to be alone and independent, how to not give a crap and have fun on my own, and how to not be superficial. That's what I can offer my SO. And unlike beauty, it's something worth building confidence on. And as your husband gets older, uglier, and wiser, he'll learn how to dress his appreciation of you in smarter words than he did yesterday. Best of luck. I hope you keep on reading, as there is some really good stuff here. To put his sentiments another way, you and I both know there are more beautiful women, but not to me. He could just be saying that, though. He might think OP is beautiful, however his friends don't see that. They tease him, and he's probably over it. Talk to him about it. OP. Just ask him if he thinks you're beautiful, then slowly head towards that you overheard them say that. He defended you, so he cares about your personality, which is a good thing. I hope it all works out well, OP. Update? This one turned out really long, sorry. First off, I'd just like to say thanks. Just wow. Over the last 2 days, I've had literally hundreds of messages and PMs. You guys rock. Seriously. Look at that thread. That's got to have one of the best positivity and sweetness to meanness and jerks ratios on all of Reddit. Like ever. You guys knocked it out of the park for me. I'm still figuring out why. So yesterday, after getting a barrage of support from you guys on my phone every couple minutes non-stop all day, I decided to try and confront my husband over what I'd overheard. After we were both home from work, I told him I needed to talk. I told him I'd overheard him and his friends, and he immediately started to apologize for them saying they were jerks and assholes and that I should have told him I'd heard. I had to stop him to let me get a word in and tell him it wasn't his friends so much as it was what he said. When I told him what he said, his whole tone changed. I could tell wasn't expecting to be blamed. I had had the whole conversation planned out. I wanted to explain how it made me feel. how I thought he really was attracted to me, and how betrayed it made me feel to hear him that behind my back. But I just started to cry, and couldn't really communicate what I wanted to say very well. He was awesome, though, and just held me, and then after a minute started to speak like he was reading right out of the nicest comments in the original thread, telling me he was just angry and didn't speak very well, that he really does find me attractive even if the world doesn't, and his friends don't. I calmed down pretty quick. I'd basically cried myself out the day before. He took me to his computer and showed me an email he sent to all of his friends on Sunday. I wish I could copy-paste it now, but he basically called all his friends assholes, said they'd crossed the line from good-natured trash talk to just being assholes, and then continued going far beyond. He said that, for time indefinite, they'd have to find another host. We're no longer welcome in my home. He actually said, "My name's home." I thought that would make it sound like I was ordering him around being a witch, but he said he just wanted to empathize how wrong what they were doing was. Seeing him stand up for me again made me happy, especially seeing me do it without talking bad about me, helping me believe it really was just a heat-of-the-moment bad word choice. He told me to wait in the room and left, coming back with a folder. He said he was going to give me this for Christmas, but that he'd get me something else. I tried to say no, but he insisted. It was plane tickets and brochures. He set up a trip in early January to this spa hotel resort thing in British Columbia. It was pretty mind-blowing, but I realized that it had to be several $1,000s he'd spent. We budget pretty thoroughly. He shouldn't have been able to spend that without me noticing. I asked where he got the money, and he said he'd been planning this for more than a year and saving all the money assigned to his weekly spending money and collecting where I wouldn't notice, change from groceries, etc. When I say that sometimes I'm not sure I deserve him, understand that I'm not having a crisis I need help dealing with. He's just really awesome. He's taking me out for dinner, so I have to go. But I'll be on again tonight. TLDR. Everything is okay. Husband is an amazing person. I still wish I was prettier, but understand how lucky I am, how happy I should be, and how prettiness and happiness are not synonyms. Thank you, Reddit, for all the support I owe you guys. Now for some comments. Oh, that is pretty much the perfect update. Thanks. I hope you hang around to help others. That's how this subreddit stays alive. Holy crap. That is a good guy. I was smoking a turkey. That is why my eyes are watery. Don't look at me. But for real, glad to hear it went so well. Good guy all around. Listen. I don't find myself attractive, and I'm sure most people don't think I am either. My husband has always called me beautiful. When I'm down on myself and calling myself ugly, I'm overweight and I'm dealing with it, but I've been sitting on negative feelings about myself forever. Therapy is helping. It is a good thing for me to vent these feelings and not be ashamed to feel the way I do. He always says, "Do you think I'd marry an uggo?" Not a chance. We both know how you feel about your weight, and while I'm concerned about your health, I wouldn't have married you if I didn't find you attractive the way you are. If you lose weight, get healthier, and become happy with who you are, that is only the icing on the cake for me. I can't believe people in your own house would be so rude. All I have to say is, you must be a kick-ass person, not just your hubby. Even the best of men don't do this for just your average nice gal. They do this for someone amazing that they feel blessed to share their lives with. His love for you is so obvious and strong. And guess what? You deserve it. You deserve to be with this kind, appreciative, loving man that refuses to let you be disrespected by his friends. Because you are a kind, loving, beautiful, smart person. As one of the comments said yesterday, freak what the world thinks, it's what the people that matter think of you. And it looks like the people that matter know how lucky they are to have you in their life. Next story. I think my husband hates me. This is a throwaway account because I don't want this to be found by anyone I know. I'm just at my wit's end and I don't know what to do anymore. I feel trapped. I 37. Female have been with my husband for 15 years. He's always been very direct and harsh with his words. He's like that with almost everyone, but I live with him, so I get the most. Though I feel like the last couple years have escalated to just being hurtful. So much so, I think he hates me, but just likes the idea of having a wife and kids. I can't seem to get anything right. He complains about the way I speak, the words I use, and I never apologize correctly or fast enough. If I don't do something he has asked of me, I'm being disrespectful. If I take initiative on something, I'm being disrespectful. If I ask him to help me with something, he'll complain, because I should have known he's too busy or too tired, or I'm to blame for that said thing being broken in the first place. If I find someone to repair it for me, I'm still wrong. For the life of me, I cannot win whatever I choose. I'm so stressed all the time because I never know what I'm getting. Will it be the nice and compassionate or the mad and hurtful version? I'm so afraid all the time. I'm afraid of doing something wrong. I'm afraid of saying something wrong because one day my jokes will pass, and on another day, it'll be an offense. It's exhausting. If I make a comment and he's on one of the off days, he'll tell me that this is why he stays away from home. I never know when I should say something, honestly. I've tried to say that the way he was behaving and talking to me hurt me, but he says I'm playing the victim card and that I'm making him out to be the bad guy for having his boundaries or whatnot. For him, his reactions are justified as mine are lack of understanding and being able to take criticism. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for constructive criticism, but at this point, I feel like a POS most of the time. I feel like I'm the most horrible person to be around. I mean, if I am to believe everything he says about my character, I'm pretty awful. I know that this seems like a bunch of mumble-jumble, but I had to get it out. It's eating at me and making me so miserable. Now for some comments. A partner in life doesn't treat their partner like you've described. You're hurting me by the way you're behaving. Him. You're playing the victim and your boundaries are BS. What would you tell your kid if they came to you with the same problem? OP replied, wouldn't want that for any of my kids. I would advise them that they deserve better. I guess that I was just trying to appease and make things better by finding a way to be better, but I'm not winning at all at this. He doesn't want you to win and will always change the goalposts. It's abusive behavior, making you walk on eggshells. Get a book, read it in secret, do not let him know. It's called Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. There's a free PDF online if you search the title. He's constantly moving the goalposts and telling you this crazy reality so you're always on the back foot. It's on purpose to keep you controlled and it's 100% abuse. You deserve better. Check out If He's So Great, Why Do I Feel So Bad? By Avery Neal, too. Great supplement for Bancroft's book. It focuses on the more subtle aspects of emotional abuse. I went through something extremely similar with my former partner of 8 years, so I know how much it hurts to be constantly criticized and dismissed by the person who promised to cherish and protect you. Please, stay strong. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend because I had a bad feeling about his best friend and him and decided to avoid drama? I, 22 female, was always a really chill person. I've always gotten along with everyone, and I really appreciate my mental peace. I hate unnecessary drama. I've been dating Zach for 3 years. He's always had his best friend, Mia, who was studying in another country. They always talked via text or video call. That never interested me at all because I also have male friends. Mia was always disinterested when Zach was by my side on his video calls, and I wasn't interested in her either, to be honest. But Zach wanted us to be friends, so I tried. Mia listens to the same music as me, so once 3 years ago I texted her on WhatsApp to try to have a friendly conversation. But she saw the message and never answered me, and blocked my number. I thought, what a rude witch. But I let it go and never talked about it to Zach, so I wouldn't make trouble. I just think that maybe she doesn't want to make friends, and I respect that. Not long ago, she returned to the country, now to stay and live here again. Zach asked me if she could stay in our apartment, and I said no. I don't feel comfortable with people staying there. Apparently, Zach told her that I was the one who refused to let her be with us because Mia has been doing everything to criticize me since that day. She has criticized my work, my studies, my hair, my clothes, etc. Zach always says that's how Mia is, and I should be her friend because she's really funny. Ha ha. Many times she tried to make me jealous with comments like, "You know that I used to take baths with Zach when we were little kids?" And she would get upset when I just said, "All right," at those random comments because the freak, why should I be jealous of that? She sits on Zach's lap. He doesn't say anything to her about that, even if he knows I don't like it. He cuddles with her every time they have the chance. They whisper to each other and go out together sometimes, and I obviously can't help but think that in any moment I will come back to the apartment and she will be wearing one of his shirt, and I don't want to deal with that, to be honest. The worst thing is that Zach really seems to like seeing me jealous when I tell him something is bothering me. He laughs saying, "Oh, you're jelly," and stuff like that without taking me seriously. It's pretty annoying to know that he likes me to feel that way, and Mia has been really irritable lately. Like if she's competing with me. It feels like they're trying to make a novella with me. She always tries to make me jealous with stupid things like when she said she knows Zach's favorite sushi and I don't. To which I replied, "Then buy sushi for everyone because I don't care at all." I've told Zach on several occasions that his friend is an idiot and he just says Mia is like that and I should just ignore her comments, but honestly, I don't have the energy to deal with that girl and not beat her up at the end of the month, so I told Zach I'm going to move out and it's better to give ourselves some time. I haven't moved yet, so he's been coming to my room to tell me that I'm letting my insecurity speak for me, and he doesn't feel anything for Mia. I told him, I'm not insecure, I just want to protect my mental peace and avoid drama. He got angry saying I should fight for him and not be so apathetic. He said that if I love him, I would be fighting for him, but I have always had the philosophy that if someone wants to cheat on you, they will do it even if you say no. I don't know if I'm being too cold about this, but I'm not the kind of person who enjoys drama. I was always the cold type of person. I hate it. And I know Zach and Mia are enjoying this love triangle. I really care about Zach, and we had a great relationship, but I care much more about my mental health. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I haven't moved out yet because we pay rent together. The whole month of the rent is already paid by me because he couldn't come up with the money to pay for this month, but he's supposed to pay for the next month. Guys, I don't have any problem with this. He didn't take advantage of me or anything. Something happened and he ran out of money for rent. Nothing about this. Plus, I have to wait for my parents to fix my room again, so for now I have to leave my things here. At the beginning of the year, the lease was updated, so I spent a lot of money on that, as well as rent went up by 40%, so it's money wasted now. I'm pretty sad about that since my father was the one who helped me pay for my part of the expenses of that apartment. Now for some comments. If he isn't fighting for you, why should you fight for him? Yes. If he loved her, he would respect reasonable boundaries and ask his friend to take a step back when she crosses them. He clearly enjoys having two women be jealous and fight over him enough to actually be super vocal about enjoying jealousy, which most men who enjoy this situation are not stupid enough to do. It seems like he enjoys jealousy so much, he would go out of his way to create situations that would promote it, probably edging closer and closer to cheating. Seriously. I can't believe you won't fight for me when other women sit on my lap. Don't you know you should strip your clothes off and offer a threesome to win my attention back? Him, essentially. You should never have to fight for the respect or attention of your partner. This is called triangulation, bringing in a third person to 1. Make you feel insecure. 2. Make you jump through hoops to win his love. If you stay, he can always do whatever he wants. Otherwise, he will threaten to leave you with side piece. She'll be a constant competition in your lives. Worst red flag. Run! I think he wants her to do the pick-me dance just to stroke his ego. Not worth it. I just wish this girl would have thrown down sooner. If I texted my boyfriend's friend and she blocked me, I would know that something is freaking wrong with that woman immediately. I'm sure it felt easy to let it go because she was overseas, but not everything is about the fear of cheating. The blatant disrespect is enough for me. Even if I know my partner is not going to sleep with somebody, that doesn't mean there's a free pass to treat me like garbage. I would never tolerate a partner who kept a friend that treated me poorly. Update. I discovered Mia was sleeping with Zach. She's expecting his baby, and they kicked me out from the apartment, but I'm pregnant too. Nah, that didn't happen. I spoke with Zach to ask him to have a good coexistence because I'm going to stay a few more months here. Talking a little bit with him and my father, we came to the conclusion that it is better for both of us to continue living together in a healthy way. We both have our bedrooms after all. He promised me that he wouldn't enter my bedroom without an invitation and apologized for doing that before. There are many reasons why we should continue to live together at least until the lease expires. But I'm not going to bore everyone with those reasons. But most of those reasons are because of money and how expensive the bus would be to get from my home to my work and college every day if I come back to my parents' house. We both cried, and I asked Zach what he expected to happen when I saw him treat Mia that way. He admitted that he likes the way I look when I'm upset. He said it's a self-esteem issue he has, but he needs me to show him all the time that I love him, and the fact I never reacted affected him a lot. Honestly, he's attractive. I know he's always been pretty conceited, but I used to think that was the way he was. But now I see that it's actually a problem he has. Narcissism. Zach said that when he sees that I don't get jealous in the way he likes, he feels annoyed and even more insecure because he thinks I don't love him because he always shows me when he's jealous. He said he doesn't have feelings for Mia at all, but he likes to see my face when she talks to me that way. Zach knows Mia likes him, but he said she's like that with all her male friends too. And at first, he thought it was funny to see my annoyed face, but then it started to bother him the fact I never reacted. I did react, but it was talking like an adult. He probably wanted me to yell and pull her hair. The worst part? I was going to do it 100% if she kept behaving that way. That's why I decided to cut off the relationship before I reacted in that way. Zach even mentioned other times he wanted me to be jealous about other girls, but honestly, I had no idea he did that because I think if someone is going to cheat on you, they're going to do it. Even if you tell them not to, I'm not going to fight for a dick. I told him he's a weird idiot, and his insecurity ruined our relationship. I had that thought of, did I really sleep with this person? So now I want the earth to swallow me. He has always been very kind, and we had a beautiful relationship, but I just can't forget that behavior and the fact he made me feel bad about Mia. Our conversation was pretty calm after that. Zach admitted that he ruined our relationship, and I made it clear to him that we won't be a couple again. I'm a little uncomfortable, but surely as the days go by, we can be friends, or at least be civil with each other. At the end of the day, we both look for different things in a couple. He wants a passionate woman who feels things just as intensely as he does, his words. And I want a mature and focused man to live in peace. I think I'm too cold for him, and he's looking for another kind of woman. Anyway, just know that no, I'm not going to be in a relationship with Zach again. That boat is already gone. For now, I just want to try to make this coexistence work, since we both know that it is what is convenient for us, and at least for my part, I am not going to screw it up. Now for some comments. Zach is a moron. He will absolutely sleep with Mia while OP is still living there to get a reaction. OP Gray Rock your ex. OP replied, he's not going to get any reaction anyway. If they do, I hope it's in his room so I can watch TV in peace. Yay, OP, he is absolutely going to do something to get a reaction out of you. You probably should maintain some distance from that dumbass. They always do. They chase after that high like any other addict, and usually end up in the exact same kind of ending. That was my first thought. I hope she can talk to the landlord about getting her name off the lease. Nah, my guess is Mia only did this because she wanted to make OP jealous. She'll ignore him, and Zach will likely try to get back with OP in a few weeks. My 22 male significant other. 22 female, showered naked with her best friend 25 female while I was out late at a sports game. Am I not thinking of the situation correctly? Am I the wrong one for being mad? I've been telling her all day that it's weird that they did that, and that I'm not feeling great that they decided randomly to do this while I was gone. All she keeps telling me is that she used to do it in high school with her swim team. But I told her why I feel bad as they are both bisexual and that I understand nothing happened, but it just makes me feel bad that they all of a sudden decided to do this while I was gone and while they were both very drunk. She keeps rolling her eyes and saying it's fine, and I will tell her why it is not. I even tried explaining if I was showering extremely intoxicated with your friend, you would also be very upset at me. But when I said that, she just got upset at me. She said, well, if you showered with your friend, I wouldn't care. I just feel weird about this whole situation, like I understand that she did that in the past and was fine with it. But we have been together for ages now, and all of a sudden, they just decided to do that together. Eat it. Everyone. This is why I'm very confused about it. Everyone had different opinions regarding it. I understand that. Everyone thinks differently. I'm not saying I hate her or I don't love her. I'm more of just trying to get an understanding of why she would be thinking of that all of a sudden. I have gotten great responses on why, but as we see in the comments, people think very differently about it. To be accepting of both sides of comments, I'm understanding why she thought it would be okay, and I'm also understanding why it was more of a thing to talk about, feel uncomfortable about. I didn't make this post for people to be rude to each other on if I am right or wrong. I was more of seeing if my understanding of the situation is correct. If what I'm feeling about it is correct, what I understand. Thank you to all those who have responded with a very 50-50 mindset of each other. Edit 2. Since most comments are still confused, here is more information. Her friend has had herpes. This isn't anything to do with it, but it's just for all the people who are commenting to take advantage of the situation. I will not take advantage of it. I understand others would, but I just want it to be with one person. We don't have an open relationship, and she, in the past, even told me that people that do have open relationships are crazy. I don't like all the comments regarding that I'm sexualizing them together. I am not, as I have said. I am just more of feeling sad about why she would do this, and why she isn't feeling the same way as I would. I'm sorry if this sounds very straight male to some of you, but it's nothing like that at all. It's more of me feeling bad about it and her not understanding it. I'm sorry if I didn't provide enough context. I was flustered the moment when I made the post. The comment about my best friend is more regarding her being mad at not being invited to things, even though I've tried to get her invited to things. He didn't invite her to his wedding, but I still went as I felt if it's the last time I'll see him. This will be the time. But my BFF feels she's too controlling and not changing like I change for her. That's why he does not like her as much. Didn't invite her. TLDR, girlfriend, who I soon plan to get engaged to, showered with her best friend naked while I was at a hockey game. I now feel sad and confused and weird about the situation. Now for some comments. Showering together at the gym or the public pool? Totally normal. Showering together at home? They're screwing. This OP. She is trickle-truthing you. There will be more in a week than a month, etc., etc. Get out now. If this is a home that OP and his GF share, then 1. Why did they both need a shower? And 2. If the GF needed a shower, why did the friend have to get naked and climb in if they are just comfortable with each other's body? They are shagging, mate. Edit. 3. How did OP find out about it? I've showered or had a bath with female friends before, back in my early 20s, and we never screwed. We were just comfortable with each other and our bodies and didn't give a crap at all. Not everything has to end in freaking people having an affair. Next story, my husband, 33. Male wants to spend Thanksgiving without me, 29, female, and our 2 kids. How do I get him to understand I'm upset? My husband and I were discussing going out of state to visit his sister for Thanksgiving. I was all for it, but quickly realized that because I'm a full-time college student, I won't be able to go as long as he wants. I offered to fly up while he drives there a couple days in advance and meet up, and then we drive down together. The conversation was left still in the wind. Then, about 2-3 weeks ago, he mentioned staying to save money, and I said, okay. Today, his mother asked him about Thanksgiving, and he said he was still going with his older kids. He has 2 kids from a previous marriage. I didn't say anything then, but when we got home, we got into a big argument over it. He said he didn't tell me that he wasn't going to go. I asked him about taking all the kids, and he flat out said he didn't want to drive 10 hours with 4 kids, especially our youngest, 2 and 3. I suggested he take one and I fly with the other, which he also shot down because he'll be driving through the day. His oldest is a teenage girl, so worst case she could help out. And I suggested he drive partially through the night so they stay mostly asleep, and he still said no. I feel very upset that he is okay with us spending Thanksgiving separately when there's clear options for us to be together. It feels like he doesn't want me to go. He told me I'm making this about myself and that he wants to go because his sister is moving to Hawaii in a couple months and he won't be able to see her for a very long time. I told him that I understood that, but I still don't understand why he can't adjust slightly so we can go as a family, and that his sister would want to see the babies as well. Then he tells me that she'll see them when she comes to visit in February, which makes me very mad, because he was painting this picture as though this'll be the last time he sees her, except that he'll see her again later. He's basically telling me that there's no other way for us to be there together when that's clearly not true. We could have even gone after Thanksgiving when I wrap up my finals, but he won't hear that. I just can't comprehend his side, because I would never want to spend a holiday without him or our kids, and he's so easily deciding to do just that. Am I overreacting? Edit. Just to bring light to the older sister helping out. The other child could help. I'm not trying to say that she should take full responsibility for either of our babies at all, and I fear people on here are assuming that, but that's because of how I wrote it. Trust me, I'm the oldest girl of my siblings, and I loathe having to feel like a second mom when I was younger. I don't even let her babysit or change diapers because of my own trauma. I meant more to just keep the baby entertained for a couple minutes if she happens to get fussy while he's driving. I really don't want people to think she's being used as some backup parent. That's never been the case. Both my stepkids love playing with the babies, so I was thinking more of just playing with them in the car, not like babysitting. I would prefer greatly to actually go on the road trip and not fly for the record. When we discussed everything, I was just coming up with multiple possible solutions. Now for some comments. What? He wants to make plans to spend time with the family, but doesn't make plans for you and your younger children? Well, what would he consider you all? Why could he not plan for them since you'll obviously be working on school? I saw that you said he's often foisting the responsibility of parenting to others when you're not around. I don't know, girl. This seems like the norm for your home. To me, this does not work. But to each their own. This doesn't seem like a loving, caring, considerate partner who thinks about or factors you into their plans, but expects you to prioritize their choices. I'm sure he'd never let you take the smaller kids to something exciting for a holiday, Disney, or vacation, and exclude his other children. OP replied, "It wasn't always like this. He was great when our 3-year-old was born, but after our youngest, it's like he's slowly checked out, and now we're down to this nonsense. Is that what happened in his previous marriage? Ding ding, I bet it is." OP. If a man can up and leave his previous wife and children, he'll do it to you without a backward glance. That was my gut feeling as well. Men who leave their female partners to do all of the child care are trash. OP unfortunately brought another woman's discarded trash into her home, and he's stinking up her life now. Trash goes out on the curb, OP. Sounds like he's cheating, either physically or with someone he's chatting up online. Any chance he has an old flame near where the sister lives? Regardless, he's disrespecting you, making it clear he doesn't want to be with you and the kids. Time to lawyer up. Screw this guy. He's a jerk. Next story. My 25. Male girlfriend of 3 years, 27. Female wants to end our relationship over my childhood female friend. What should I do? To make a long story short, I have grown up with this friend since we were 8, and she has been there for me through every challenging relationship, breakup, or turmoil. I became embedded in her family and felt at home. They were my family. Moving into my current relationship had a rocky start, and I often sought advice from my childhood friend. Years later, I moved in with my current girlfriend, and she began having a growing self-conscious concern that I was romantically involved with this friend. I have never been romantically involved and always viewed her as family. My current girlfriend always knew about her but assumed we did not talk anymore, which was not the case. She then told me she wanted to hear my conversations and listen for anything suspicious. When I asked what she would listen for, laughter was on the list as a concern for flirting. Not wanting to give up my childhood friend, I wrongly hid text messages and phone calls from my partner. She found out that things went downhill, and I agreed to set some boundaries, which resulted in no contact over the past year. This has been secretly destructive to me. I would have dreams of spending time with her and her family like I always would, and then wake up and burst into tears, thinking I would never see them again. Fast forward to now, my girlfriend and I argued, and she stated she would be willing to meet with my friends, not specifying who. I had an idea who she was referring to. After attempting to get her to meet my female friend so long ago, and her adamant refusal, this suggestion was angering. I replied, "No, you already killed that." A mean thing to say, and in bad taste. She took this horribly and screamed that she freaking hates me, that I was a piece of crap, and she didn't want to be with me, her exact words. I just sat there silently and asked if she really meant that. She deflected back on me, asking me how I could say something so awful after everything I put her through. To me, these words were not equal in any way, but to her, mine were worse. She apologized later over the phone once I had to leave for work, but I still carried those words with me all day and the next. I brought it up the next day, and she reinforced that she only said those things because I made her feel X, Y, Z, or because of what I said. This happened multiple times until I just gave up. Later, she asked me to delete my friend's number from my phone. I hadn't had contact with them in over a year, and she wanted to sever my last tie. I said no. Apparently, this is a deal breaker. I don't feel good, I do not want to lose my partner or my lifelong friend, but she is pressuring me to make a choice. Now for some comments, I mean it honestly depends on the relationship you had with this friend and the context. My husband had 2 close female friends that he said were strictly platonic and he never looked at in any sort of romantic way. One of the friends is great, I get along with her very well, and we frequently go out on double dates with her and her boyfriend. I have absolutely no problems with her, and I even encourage my husband to talk to her more and for us to all hang out more. He had another female friend who made me very, very uncomfortable. She would keep sending him pictures and videos of herself, many times in very revealing clothing. Basically fishing for compliments and attention, she would constantly message him and spam his texts, etc. I absolutely did not have a good feeling about her at all. Luckily, my husband realized she was being sketchy and blocked her. So it really depends on the context of the friendship. I don't want to lose my partner. Trust me? Yes, you do. You shouldn't have hidden texts, that was wrong. But the boundaries set were too far, and everything she wants to enforce is insane. Just get out. Don't sacrifice your friends for a new relationship. Definitely don't hide things from a new relationship either. That's the advice it's too late to take. Right now, you can calmly describe the relationship you have with your female friend to the woman you are dating and tell her that old friends will stay friends regardless of gender, and that's that. If that means she doesn't want to date you, you're going to have to accept that. Last story. What would you do in my situation? 32. Female and 45 male open relationship. I don't know if this will help at all, but I really need a fresh perspective. Names are obviously changed. Imagine, Anna and Thomas are married, with 2 children. Thomas falls in love with Claire and ends up opening his marriage to be with Anna and Claire simultaneously. Anna and Claire get along fine, but never become friends due to personality differences. Claire spends every weekend with them, but spends the weeks in her own apartment. Thomas keeps telling Claire that he loves her, but he has to stay married with Anna because of the kids. He doesn't want to put them through divorce. This goes on for years. Claire feels lonely during the week and wants to go out and date people. Thomas is not okay with that, though, says he'd be too jealous. Claire points out that it's not really fair because he has his family while she only has half of him on the weekends. Thomas points out that it's not comparable, him being in a joyless marriage for 20 years versus Claire dating and falling in love with new people. He feels he'd be at a disadvantage. Claire accepts this, and it goes on for several more years, in which she starts realizing that Thomas has no intention of ever moving out, regardless of whether the kids are still living in the house or not. Apparently, he values loyalty above everything else. The problem is that Claire has never loved anyone that much before, and leaving would be the hardest thing she'd ever do. I'm Claire, obviously. And what's driving me crazy is that Thomas keeps saying that this arrangement is fair and his male friends agree with him. He is always there for me and furnished my entire apartment, etc. But I feel like I'm being used nonetheless. Any thoughts? Now for some comments. Claire needs to wake the heck up. Seriously, take off the rose-tinted glasses and wake up. He doesn't love or respect you. Edited to add, an open relationship isn't just open on one side. Also, Thomas doesn't value loyalty above all else. He has no loyalty. He's a selfish, domineering, manipulative, egocentric, cheating, neglectful a-hole. Claire is a naive mistress who knowingly accepted a relationship with a married a-hole and stayed in the situation because she's obviously some kind of messed up and needs therapy. And Anna needs to realize her husband is a piece of garbage and put his butt out with the trash where he belongs. This. How can OP say he values loyalty? He is self-centered, controlling, and manipulative. This guy is probably a few years away from falling in love again and finding a new, younger side piece. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my brother a character letter to help his court trial after what he did to a friend's daughter? Hey everyone, so I, 28, female, have a brother, 31, who is looking at serving time in prison for intimate relations with a minor 14 female, who is one of my friend's daughter. This has been going on for months as evidence states, and we only found out a few weeks ago. When I found out about this, I had a discussion with my friend and apologized for what happened, but understandably she wants space. I have also cut off my brother as this whole situation is just disgusting to me. My parents, however, have stayed by his side and are trying to say the only reason he did what he did is because he has autism and didn't know what he was doing was wrong. Despite them being shown text messages where he states himself that what he was doing was bad and he could be sent to prison for it. However, after they spoke to my brother's lawyer, he stated that we could each write up a character letter to be presented for him in court so the judge can have better understanding of who he is beside the incident, but I refused because I don't think he deserves it. I'm currently 6 months pregnant, and I don't want my daughter to be around, grow up with a man like my brother. I've spoken to my husband about this for another opinion, and he agrees with me not submitting a character letter. But we are thinking of talking to the children that my brother was around in the family just to make sure that he hasn't done anything to them. My mother is dying, and she says she doesn't want to pass while her son is serving time in prison for something, in her words, that wasn't that bad. Both her and my father are pressuring me to do this, and seeing them so upset is hard for me, but whenever I even think about doing it makes me sick. I just wanted to ask for everyone else's opinion on what I should do. Me and my brother were extremely close up until this point, which I think is making this harder for me. Should I cut out my parents too? Should I write the letter? Now for some comments. Character reference. I thought my brother was a great guy until I found out he was having intimacy with a child. Came here to say this. Write the letter. Be honest. Did your parents ask you to write a positive character letter or just a character letter? Honestly, I doubt that the letters will do much difference either way. I would write that character letter, explaining that he isn't stupid, that he always knew what was right or wrong before, and then give that to the DA. Exactly, and certainly include this one single line. I don't want my daughter to be around or grow up with a man like my brother. You know he's a massive danger to your own daughter now. Write the letter, but don't make it about how good he is. Just make it honest. It's tough to understand why your parents would want to back your brother after such a terrible situation. They seem to be glossing over the severity of what he did, which is frustrating. By minimizing the situation, they're missing an opportunity to support the victim and show accountability. It's really concerning to see them choose denial over reality. Last story with update. Am I the a-hole for bringing up just how much I actually do for our household to my wife? Can't believe I actually have a reason to post something on Reddit, but here I am. My wife, 41F, and I, 42M, have been married for 15 years. I apparently surprised her by being capable of doing household chores and tasks, which I didn't think much of. My mom always asked me to help out with chores when I was a kid, so I didn't think it was beneath me or anything. I do think I inherited her need to clean excessively, like it's so bad that I can't eat until a mess is dealt with. My mom is an amazing cook. My aunt was a literal chef at a fancy hotel, and my dad loved having barbecues. It was pretty natural to learn from them and pick up a thing or two. The only thing I didn't pick up was how to make a decent cup of tea or coffee. I'm genuinely awful at it. It got to a point where I was handling most of the household chores and taking care of cooking, which I prefer anyway since she comes home exhausted. I've been asking our children, 11F and 9M, to do some minor tasks around the house and hopefully teach them this sort of thing too. She has a group of friends who hang out regularly. This time it was her turn to host the group at her home. I offered to take our children out for the day, and it was all set. Before we left, I had to finish up some things for work. The office space is practically on top of our living room, so I could hear what they were talking about the entire time. One of the friends asked how she always kept our house so spotless, and my wife just bragged about how she was responsible for it all. Then they all started talking about their gripes with their marriages. A common theme was how unhelpful their spouses were. I felt pretty uncomfortable, so I just left the office and went out with the kids. I came back after they had left for the night and acted as normal until we got to our bedroom. I asked her what was up with that conversation they had and pointed out that I did the cooking and cleaning in our marriage. She told me not to take it personally and that she just wanted to fit in with the struggles of her friends. Now I just feel unappreciated, especially since I don't clearly remember any genuine gratitude for what I do from her. Since then, she's been pretty short with me. She says I'm weaponizing what I'm doing against her and holding it over her head. I don't expect her to compliment me each time I clean or defend me religiously, just a little, "My husband is pretty helpful actually, he does his share," would be nice. I can't help but feel like her friends think I'm some sort of deadbeat who comes home to relax and neglect her. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. You're not weaponizing what you're doing against her. You're just insisting that she doesn't lie about you and badmouth you to her friends, which is exactly what she is doing. She knows that she is in the wrong here, hence her hostile response. She doesn't have a reasonable defense for her behavior. Personally, I wouldn't let this go. Her friends are people you will have to socialize with from time to time, and therefore, what they think about you does matter. Love it. His wife is accusing him of weaponizing his competence. That's a fresh take on here. OP is not the a-hole at all. But I think I might have some idea what's going on in his wife's head, which might help talking about it. Some women really internalize the idea that all the work around the house is their responsibility, to the point where it's embarrassing for them to have to admit to anyone that their partner is doing some of it. I had to deal with it with my parents ages ago. My dad retired and started to take care of the cooking, and my mom's sister mentioned it at one point, and my mom absolutely melted down thinking it meant she was a failure. Like my mom, who is as emotionally constipated as you'd expect an 80-something-year-old woman to be, was worried enough to talk to me about it. The only way I managed to get through to her was to tell her that anyone who criticized her was probably envious that my dad was helping around the house, and that besides, my dad enjoys cooking, so she's being a thoughtful partner and leaving him to it. It's not a healthy way to think, but it is a way some people think. Now for the update, I think I'm just done at this point. I did something I never did before and went into her phone while she slept. We both know each other's passwords, so it wasn't really difficult. Some of the cheating comments got to me, and I felt pretty paranoid about this situation. Instead, I found a group chat with some of her work friends, different from the other friends she had over. It was just non-stop mockery of me and some of the stuff I did for her. She told them how embarrassed she feels to be with me and that I dote on her like a parent and don't feel like her husband. The lunches I pack for her are humiliating because I add sweets and other treats I know she likes. Some of her coworkers teased her about the snacks I have for her, and she admitted to just throwing them out at work. She doesn't have any issue eating them at home. But at work, she throws out my baking? She had some choice words to say about me in her chat, some of which I don't have the courage to type out here. One of her meme pictures was of me on my knees, scrubbing a bathroom tile, edited to have some sort of dress on like I was some sort of housewife from the 1960s or something. I just closed her phone and left the bedroom. I confronted her about the chat in the morning and the contents of it, which got her panicking. I focused on our kids this morning and left her to her own devices. It's not like she would have appreciated a kid's lunch anyways. Now she's texting me like crazy at the office, but I think I lost all respect for her and what she's become. Not only does she find me overbearing and embarrassing as a husband, but then I find out she mocks me to her friends and exposes some sensitive relationship issues to her group chat. This will probably be the last update since I don't think she can come back from this. We'd just celebrated our 15th anniversary last month, too. I feel like a loser now after seeing what my wife actually thinks of me. Now, for some comments, I completely agree. You're not being unreasonable by wanting her to be honest about your contributions. It's important for both of you to have a clear understanding and respect for each other's efforts, especially in front of friends. Her reaction shows she knows she's in the wrong, and it's unfair for her to misrepresent you. Since you'll have to interact with her friends, their perception of you does matter. OP, not the a-hole. This is the hill op should die. What a self-centered witch. Not the a-hole. My sister used to do this, but with my clothes, asking to borrow something, we'd go out. People are like, OMG, your dress is so cute. Where'd you get it? And she'd be like, I don't know, just had it. Like no witch with a B, it's mine. You know it's mine. It would drive me crazy. It's not that big of a deal at the end of the day, but damn. Just give credit when credit is due. First story. My 34 male girlfriend, 35, stopped birth control and didn't tell me, ended up pregnant. How do I move forward? First post, I really need some help. For context, we're an unmarried couple, met in college and fell in love but didn't finish, who already has 2 kids, 13 and 11. We spent most of our relationship poor on my income only, and recently began making more money when she finished school and got her dream RN job around the beginning of 2023. Since then, we got engaged, started making plans for a wedding, started saving money and searching for houses to buy. She started baby talking, which I thought was normal, but I made it clear I didn't want another kid now because I wanted to finish college and get my dream job too. I told her I wanted to be more sure about my path before we took that step, because I was likely going to quit my day job, which was paying all the bills up to this point. Seemed like she was on board with that. In May, we found out she was pregnant. At first, I was confused how it could happen given she was on birth control for years. Then she tells me her birth control expired at the end of the year and she never renewed the prescription. Surprise, I had no idea. Completely out of left field. Worst part of the situation is, I found this out 1 month after I applied for college for the fall semester, got accepted, and got my previous loans paid with the government so I could receive grants to help with the cost. Her excuse for not renewing the prescription was that, with her new insurance, she would need to get the kitty checked by a doctor that she worked with, which made her uncomfortable. Her insurance gives the best rates for doctors that work at her hospital. Although, found out after that, it's easy to get a script online without insurance for about $50. She didn't have an excuse for why she didn't just tell me and admitted there was no way I could have known. All the while, we kept having plenty of sex. probably close to every other day as an average, and I wasn't pulling out. This went on for 4 months until she got pregnant. To me, there's only one explanation for her not telling me, and it's that she purposely did it to get pregnant. Fast forward to today, and I'm a broken man. Baby is due in January, and I gave up on school for now, knowing we can't afford another kid without it. I constantly feel like I'm in the twilight zone. She's ecstatic to have a baby, and so is the rest of the family, and I'm sitting here writing this at 4 a.m., depressed as hell, and still wondering how this happened. We aren't doing good, and we haven't talked in weeks, even though we're still living together and sleeping in the same bed. I can't get over the fact she would do something like this. I put everything on hold in my life to put her through school, and I finally had a chance to do the same. And here we are. I'm frustrated knowing that my choices are either stay with a liar and get married or break up our family and not see my kids every day. Some days I think maybe this will turn out to be a blessing and that I should stay with her and get married. But most days I think she should be in jail. Now for some comments, call off engagement at least. Obvious step 1. Do not marry her. I mean, they've been together for over 14 years seems like, so it's not like there was a freaking rush. Next story. Fiancé 26. Male cheated on me 29. Female at a brothel. How can I get over this? My fiancé and I have been together for 4 years. I stayed and worked in his country just to be with him. We were just engaged 2 months ago, and I thought everything was going so well. Tonight, when he came home late from work and acted like he was exhausted from working till 11 p.m., I had this gut feeling that something was amiss. I tried to resist, but I checked his phone. He went to a freaking brothel with his friend, and it isn't even the first time. I thought with all my whole heart he was my forever person. I'm on such great terms with his family and friends. How could I be so stupid to not have noticed anything? How could he even do this to me? Now he's lying next to me snoring and I don't know what to feel. My whole world is crashing down and I'm just gutted. I was just engaged for God's sake. I just want to go home to my country. I have never loved someone so much, but now I feel numb. It's the second time I've been cheated on by a boyfriend, and I feel like I've lost all hope in everything. Now for some comments. By dumping him and finding someone who doesn't freak people who aren't you. Also get tested. A SAP. And ew, what a nasty freaker. Literally. OP. Secretly plan your exit strategy. While he's at work, start to organize what you wish to take. Joint accounts. Take no less than half. Close any joint credit card accounts. If you are returning to your country and it requires flying, book your flight. If it's driving, just pack up when he's not there. Leave a short note, simply providing the telephone number to the brothel, then disappear from his life. Don't even think about staying with this lug. Also tell his mother once you've gone, a single line, then block, because that close family will start calling as soon as he comes home to an empty house and cries about his disappearing fiancée that cruelly left him. Next story. My ex-36 male told me, 30 female, no man on the planet wants to communicate about the arguments they have with their partners. Is this true? My ex told me, no man on the planet wants to communicate about the arguments they have with their partners. As the title says, my ex-boyfriend, who I broke up with due to a complete lack of communication and conflict resolving, has told me that there are not any men on the planet who would be able to fill this need for me. He claims that no man in this world wants to resolve conflict via communication, as he thinks that men generally just don't want to argue, and if arguments happen, it is always the woman creating it, and it is then her problem, not his. He is of the mentality that any issue I have is my own problem. And if I try to communicate with him about it, I am arguing, and he then refuses to address the issues as he thinks, I shouldn't have any issue in the first place. He thinks I get offended too easily and uses that as a reason to refuse to resolve conflict. So I am trying to gather some data because 1, I don't believe this claim, but 2, I am terrified he is right. So, men of Reddit, Ask UK, if your partner comes to you with an issue, let's say you've said something she found offensive. Would you then refuse communication about it because it is her own problem that she is offended? Or would you take a different approach? If you have a different approach, then how would you address conflict in a relationship? Now for some comments. LOL. Absolutely not. My fiancé is an excellent communicator, and I don't need to fight him to talk to me about issues we're having. We face them together as a team. It's not him versus me, it's us versus the issue. OP replied, "This is exactly what I've tried to get through to him for 5 years, but he is very black-white in his mentality. It is only ever my issue and not his, and if I have an issue with anything he does, it is my issue, and he shouldn't be expected to do anything about it, not even listen to me." That's not being black and white. That is being so unbelievably arrogant that you assume you are always 100% unquestionably correct about everything. Glad you're calling him your ex. Next story. My 25 female boyfriend, 27. Male broke up with me over my Reddit account. How do I deal with things ending so suddenly? Hi all. I am with a man now, ex, who broke up with me 4 weeks ago now over my Reddit account. He had found my Reddit account somehow and saw that I had been asking for relationship advice and sharing intimate details about our relationship. He feels like I was just talking crap about him or was angry at him and wanted to get people to talk crap with me. He broke up with me the day he told me about this. He broke up with me 3 weeks after we had moved into an apartment together. During the breakup, we didn't talk about it for long. He was very aggressively angry, got in my face, and our conversation was absolutely anything but productive. Since he wasn't going to hear me out or listen to my side of the story, I blurted out, "I don't think this is working." So really, I broke up with him. The next day, he texted me and asked me to come and get my stuff to move out. It all happened very fast, and I wish we could have talked more and come to some kind of understanding. But I also feel like it just doesn't add up and is all very weird. I've honestly been doing really well, but sometimes get really sad and just wish I could talk to him and we could just communicate better after things have calmed down. But I know that's not realistic, LOL. How do I get over not getting closure? Now for some comments, I think sometimes closure isn't worth it. This seems like one of those times. I had a relationship where we lived together, but I liked him way more than he liked me. It was so pathetic how hard I tried to get him to show affection. I turned to Reddit too because I felt I was being gaslit and wanted him to read the comments so he could see different points of view. Wow, no, bad idea apparently. He blew up at me, how dare I? And guess what? He got his way, he got the spotlight off of his shortcomings, and let's look at all the ways I'm the screw-up. Quote unquote, I wish we could have talked more and come to some kind of understanding. To what end? It's clear from what you've written here he was pretty angry and just done with the relationship. Last story. I, female 33, am totally closed off to my husband. Male 36, is there any hope? I have been married for 12 years to my husband. All 12 of those, my husband dead bedrooms me to the point I had to cry and beg for sex. We'd have sex probably once every 2 to 3 years. He even refused sex on our wedding night. He gaslit me so hard to the point I genuinely believed I was the problem. He told me bit by bit, but always in a joking manner, how disgusting I was. From my feet, face, labia, everything he insulted. I'd never had body issues before this. I never thought my labia were massive and freaking gross. They are barely even visible. I got so infatuated with labiaplasty, I'd spend hours every week for months on end, crying, wondering if I could ever afford it. In February, he asked me to go on his phone and set up something whilst he did something else. As I typed in P in the search bar for the site I was heading to, that's when it all clicked into place. He'd been watching porn since before we were married. He'd been watching it almost every day. Birthdays, anniversaries, every important day. He'd look at porn. This is when it really hit me that it wasn't me at all. It was him. Being a Christian, I never had a reason to leave in my eyes until now. When I said I wanted a divorce, he promised me he'd stop adult videos. He got a flip phone and locked all the tablets and laptops, told me he couldn't live without me, he'd kill himself if I left, blah, blah. Now he's not getting his online vagina fix, he's into me, complimenting me, wanting sex, etc. But I can't. What he's done has knocked me for 6. I think what he's done is absolutely vulgar. Apparently him insulting me in very intimate ways was always just a joke. I didn't really think that. I just said it as a joke. Is there really any coming back from this? It's been 8 months almost, and I even wince when he just puts his hand on me. He makes me want to throw up in my mouth. I don't even know how to open up and let someone in that insulted my intimate parts. I don't want him to look at them, touch them. I feel such shame about myself. Will it ever change? Is there hope? Anyone experienced something similar? Please help. Now for some comments. Why do you want to be with someone who routinely insults the way you look, and who suddenly threatens to kill himself if you leave? This sounds massively manipulative. Yep. He insulted her so she'd blame herself, to the point that she was considering surgery, all so he wouldn't have to change his porn addiction. Very manipulative. OP. He doesn't care about your well-being, he cares about you not leaving because of what you provide for him. It's in your best interest to leave someone that will emotionally harm you if it benefits him. You need therapy to relearn to love your body, something he took from you. You can't recover from this relationship if you stay. This suicide threat is another manipulation tactic to get you to sacrifice your best interests for his needs. I'm wondering if he's threatened to kill her if she can hire a lawyer to be held on a psychiatric hold while she has him served with divorce paperwork and restraining orders while she moves out, escapes to a location he can't find her at. Personally, I wouldn't recover. I was told by my ex 15 years ago that my labia were too big, they're not, and I still battle to let my husband, who loves it, go down on me. I've always battled to orgasm, but that guy just ruined it completely. ETA, the absolute betrayal of gaslighting you and destroying your self-esteem intentionally, years and years of joking about how ugly you are, when he was the problem is a relationship ender in itself. I'd only want him close enough to me to be able to spit in his face. You deserve so much better, move on, sweetheart. He is a disgusting excuse for a human. If he threatens suicide, call the cops or appropriate emergency personnel. God makes us all beautiful and loves us just as we are. Our spouses take vows to do the same. OP, please try to find a therapist, not a marriage counselor, absolutely not a Christian therapist, and start repairing the damage this bastard has done to you for years. Without question, there is no hope for this marriage. You have a long time to enjoy all the pleasures of life, but first, you must spit out the poison of this nightmare that doesn't deserve the label marriage. Good luck. Divorce. That's the only answer. Stand up and walk away from this abusive weirdo who doesn't like you. You are only 33, you can do so much better than this. Your options are to end the marriage or stay and live like this forever. There is no such thing as potential. This is who you married and who you are going to remain with if you stay in the relationship. Good luck. Story. My 34 male girlfriend, 35, stopped birth control and didn't tell me, ended up pregnant. How do I move forward? First post, I really need some help. For context, we're an unmarried couple, met in college and fell in love but didn't finish, who already has 2 kids, 13 and 11. We spent most of our relationship poor on my income only, and recently began making more money when she finished school and got her dream RN job around the beginning of 2023. Since then, we got engaged, started making plans for a wedding, started saving money and searching for houses to buy. She started baby talking, which I thought was normal, but I made it clear I didn't want another kid now because I wanted to finish college and get my dream job too. I told her I wanted to be more sure about my path before we took that step, because I was likely going to quit my day job, which was paying all the bills up to this point. Seemed like she was on board.